microphone is here to make me look cool, but I'm actually going to shout today. The microphone is just for the video. All of the sessions are being videoed. I would say filmed, but we all know better now. And they will be up and available. We'll send you an email. You can get them through the website, but for the ones you missed, the ones that you wished you were at, and that's actually my first note here. After I introduce myself, my name is Ben Pollock, and let's go there. I'm Ben Pollock. This is the 101 of the 101 track. This is the barest, newest beginning. And this will be true for the rest of the day. But if you know all this stuff, I start going and you go like, or you nod off. Cut out. It's your day. Yeah, it does look kind of rude, but you got to do it. You just got to be assertive and cut out. Go find a session you like better. If you're at another session on the other hand and it's not for you or it just goes way over your head, and I assure you that all the developer and the designer ones go way over my head. They have every year, and I know more every year, and if you're lost, go find one that you can get more out of. Just sneak out the back. We instructors all know and understand, and we do it ourselves. And it's not really rude. It's what you have to do in a session like this. So first off, how many here have never touched a website, as in not looking at one, but starting one? How green are people here? Green, green, green. You've done email and nothing more sophisticated? Okay. How many people have just bought a URL and are just looking to get started? Cool. We did this last night. I realized this is for my benefit, and you're going, okay, what's going on? About half a dozen people for each question. But that's to give me an indication and you an indication about where we start and so forth. And what I want to do first is redefine blog for you. I didn't hear the introduction that you heard earlier, but what's the blog? What's the website? That's kind of crucial. WordPress is a blogging platform. That's how they set it up. And if you go to WordPress on the web, you'll see they call themselves a blogging platform. And then you'll see all these riotously cool things that are done on it. And blogging is a misnomer for them. I'm playing a dozen slides. And some of them have kind of longish quotes, the more philosophical. If you need to multitask because your attention deficit issues, like I do sometimes, you can go back and forth. But they're going to rotate, and these are not tied to what I'm talking about now, so that you know. Blogs were invented in 1997. This is the quick and dirty 10 minutes before I do a demonstration. That's our form. They were a way for scientists and techies to keep track of one another when they worked in groups. All a web log for short, to start out with, was a line of HTML code that would put a timestamp on whatever you were writing on the internet, day and time, and so forth. And that was so if somebody added a paragraph to whatever project they were working on, hit the line of code, and then someone else put something in afterwards, they could track their changes. You can do that on Microsoft Word too, but this is a way to do it on the internet. That's all it started out as. And the beginnings are important to think of like that from 1997. But all the techies quickly found out that it was a way also to keep online public or semi-public journals or diaries. And that's when weblog became more of a blog in terms of a journal. Because you could post, here's what I'm doing today, here's what I'm doing tonight. This is 15 years before Facebook, Twitter, and so forth. And that's where all of that basically began. At some point, corporations, I'm going to use newspapers because that's my background, newspaper websites thought they could personalize their websites by having the reporters do blogs. They had a timestamp. Whatever didn't fit into a news article, another quib, another piece of gossip, they would put into the reporter's personal blog. Other businesses, especially tech corporations, did that too. The lines got blurred, basically. Websites saw blogging, having that timestamp worked. WordPress, on the other hand, and other blogging platforms saw that a lot of people could put fully professional sites up using their easy-to-use, and every year it gets easier, use techniques. This is basically like writing an email. If you can put a photo on an email and send it, you can blog, and you can look like a website. I have here on this dozen slides, I have 3 websites. Blondie, the old New Wave band, TED has a blog, and Intuit, which is, of course, TurboTax and Quicken. They use WordPress.com as their base. They are full websites. So when I say blog, think website. And if I say website, think blog. That's the first set of 2s. Most lectures have sets of 3 or 5. Everything I can talk about on WordPress are in sets of 2. That was the first, blog and website. The second one is real crucial about WordPress that we're here today for. There's a WordPress.com and a WordPress.org. They're 2 different websites that have 2 different functions. Both of them are free and are free in different ways. And I'm going to focus on .com. And you'll see their home pages here too as well. .com I have it here. I'm trying not to use my notes that closely. Most of today's sessions are about .org. It's .org because it is, and the company that runs it is a nonprofit. You get software like you would download TurboTax from the internet, put it on your computer in WordPress.org. You would get WordPress, the current version of it. Then you would upload it to your own website, which either has content because you've done before or it's just brand spanking new blank. It is totally free. You own it. You can do whatever you want, from the mildest to the most revolutionary, if you want to talk WikiLeaks or something, or Tea Party on the way other side of everything. It's yours to own. But you have to have a website to do that. And a website, at a minimum, costs about $200 a year. There's another mini set of 2s. You're paying $60 to $80 to lease your name, to lease your URL. And you're paying about $120 a year for the hosting service. That's a company that has servers. Servers are giant computers with giant memory that actually host and comprise the cloud. If you have a really popular website, it costs a lot more than $200 a year. But that's your outlay, and if you're in a business, that's nothing. That's very affordable. WordPress.com is another kind of free. It is its own hosting service. It's going to constantly, like Facebook does now, ask you for money, ask you if you want an upgrade, ask if you want to be something like have your own URL on it. But you can be totally free. You can do it now. You can do it while I'm talking, get it ready, get it up and going. They have a few rules. They're on there. And I wanted to go over those very quickly. Well, the first rule that people are interested in is you cannot sell space for ads. You can't go and do Google Ads, AdSense, or anything. You can sell your own product. If you're knitting and selling your knitting, you can do that. And you can use PayPal and all of that. But you can't post advertisements. If you upgrade in WordPress.com, you can do ads. But as the basic, you cannot. The other thing, and this last month, the Federal Trade Commission ruled that you cannot do paid content on a WordPress.com blog. Is anyone here a member of Social Fabric in town? You'll want to go to .org. It's everything is free, nonprofit, glorious volunteer. So if you're being paid to give your opinion and so forth, that's not allowed. I don't know how long it would take for them to catch you, but that's a piece of it. But in general, this is all open and free and so forth. Small businesses are welcome to use it, but advertising, paid for your opinion, even though Social Fabric you have to post and everything is really ethical and so forth. WordPress in San Francisco doesn't know that, and they want to prevent spamming and phishing operations. Phishing with a PH. Does everyone get what I mean by .press and .com in BASIC? Okay. .org. Yes. You cannot customize. If you don't like the way the pictures look, if you don't like the font, and so forth, you cannot customize it. You do have a choice of several hundred free templates, and you may find one that you like better, and you should go look around. Even after you set it up, you can change it. But in general, you can't do little tricks. You want the headlines to look boldface, or in a different way, you're going to need to be where you can customize it or have someone customize it for you on WordPress.org. On the other hand, you have a huge amount of space. If you're just writing text, it's unlimited because text, words take very little space. In the free part of WordPress.com, you have 3 gigs of memory. It also allows 2,500 regular size photos. Even if you're a photographer, you probably are not going to need 2,500 images online. That's a lot of room. They'd love for you to buy more. You don't have to. If, however, you wanted to put a video or an audio podcast on, that 3 gigs, well, you need 5 gigs. Even if you're just running 10 seconds from your iPhone, it eats it up, and you'd have to pay extra. That's a disadvantage, but there's a workaround already. It's called YouTube. Vimeo, all those others, load your video there. They're ready for you. Get an account set up at YouTube or at Vimeo or a couple of others, and then put the link, and I'll show you today how to do that on your site. It's still free. It's a workaround. I want to explain free real quick because I think this is an underlying precept of everything we're talking about today. We're all used to free samples. You get a piece of bread at the mall or a wedge of a cookie at the mall, and they're hoping, you may not, but they're hoping you buy a dozen or 2 dozen. That's generally 5%, 95% in this place, in the business college. That's one kind of free. The internet switched this, and that's why WordPress works, and that's why we're here. And it's called variously the 98% rule or the 99% rule. 1 or 2% of the users pay for the rest of us. Facebook is free. Those little ads that annoy the heck out of you, the little pleas you get, somebody actually is buying those and hope that you click on them. They're paying for the rest of us. That 1% also makes the people that run Twitter and so forth the richest people in the world. It's a whole different business model. 2, the second kind of free is what we call open source. It's why all of this is available for the cost of your monthly Cox cable bill or AT&T bill. And that's because techies are pretty much just good-hearted people. You have 3 or 4 different web design companies. They're competitors the rest of the year. They're all sponsoring and so forth. But if everybody learns, it's a lot like a rising tide raises all boats. In Fayetteville last week, CVS, CV as in vampire S, a national drugstore everywhere but Texarkana in terms of Arkansas, is building a CVS drugstore, looks and smells and acts like Walgreens, across from Walgreens on College Avenue. Rising tide raises all boats. Our Segas, Starbucks, that's the essence of what we're doing here. It's why it's free. We can do an incredible amount of stuff and let AT&T pay for it, Google pay for it. You need to know, speaking of free, WordPress is great. Someone here was just telling me they're on Blogger and they want to move over. Blogger is the other major blogging platform, and you can make websites, manage your content on Blogger. It's owned by Google. Most people, 19% or so, think of the world is on, 19% of all websites are run on WordPress. That's a fifth. And the reason for that is because it has so much customizability on it. It's very easy to use. Blogger's very easy to use. There's 2 big ones you can pay for, Movable Type and TypePad. In my opinion, you don't get any more by paying for it, but I have friends who use TypePad, and it works. Most everything I'm talking today, things you learn throughout the weekend, can be used on these others. Those are very general 2s. I'm now moving straight into WordPress. There's Blondie. WordPress.com and WordPress.org we talked about. There's 2 kinds of images, of files, like a Word file. I'm trying not to use my key words so I don't confuse you. And they're very important in WordPress because they're unique to WordPress. The general term is you have a static file and a dynamic file. If, say, you have a restaurant website, a static file is an image of your home page, perhaps, where you post your hours and your address, maybe a map, and so forth. You then have dynamic, and a dynamic file is what the blog came from. That's the timestamp. It's expected to be updated, and so forth. Now, in WordPress, you can update either of them, and just as easily. But in conceptualized and planning your blog, website, static and dynamic. In WordPress, a static file is called a page, P-A-G-E. A dynamic blog file is called a post. That's the easy way to remember it. Most people say blog post, P-O-S-T. And we're going to be talking about that again and again to get through that. Again, in the restaurant, if you have daily specials, you put them on a dynamic post. Hours of operation, your address, the history of your restaurant, usually you'll put on a static page. You can fix them all. Posts have the advantage that you can organize them into folders, like a computer has folders. Those are called categories in WordPress, and you'll see those usually along the side on a post. One thing you can do with static pages, you can't organize them into folders called categories, but you can make them into hierarchies. You can nest them. Parent-child is the usual internet coding phrase. I'm going to move on to the demonstrations. Anyone have any initial questions about the overview?
When you talk about
yes.
dynamic file, you're saying that would be the kind of things like if you were updating events or something, that's where you would put that.
Dynamic, you would update events, yes.
Right. And post, I mean, static would be history of a
yes. Yes. Biographies of the board of directors. That would, I mean, they change every year when there's an election, but that would be a static page. And that sort of thing. And this is the organizing, the outline part. Another question?
I was trying to confirm that on .com, WordPress.com, you're not able to have PayPal or, is that true?
PayPal.
PayPal.
Yes, you can have PayPal. You can sell your own stuff, or you can be a small business. You could take, if it's the restaurant example, you could take catering orders or to-go pizza. What you can't do on WordPress.com is have third-party advertisements.
So an e-store.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. An e-store is a good example. If you're on someone else's website and every time you click on it you have different ads, that's the sort of thing you cannot do on .com. One good thing about .com is you can get your feet wet in .com and export your entire content into .org when you're ready to make the big step. Everything will look the same if you use the same template. But you could do that for a month or a couple of years and then move over. So you could, have PayPal for your own project. If you start having more clients or partners in your group, expand it out, and you don't lose anything. That's a huge advantage. Yes. Y'all need me to repeat questions? She asked, if you start on a theme, can you change your theme? Yes.
I know you can, but do you lose everything?
No.
Where does it go, and how do you, because they always say make sure you back it all up.
Well, usually themes you don't have to back it all up. Plugins, and when you do some major change, you don't. But in themes you don't, I've never, at least now, the last couple of years, you don't need to back up for the purpose of changing your theme. It's another layer of code. It's another folder of stuff of Greek. It's another folder of Greek that layers on top of your data. Have you all seen on some websites, instead of just the name of the URL, it says PHP at the end? That's the database. That's your data. It all stays intact. It goes through a filter of a theme, which governs the fonts, the templates, how wide everything is, and it's safe.
And so when you upgrade from the old WordPress, which keeps telling me to upgrade, but I've been afraid to because I thought I would lose everything.
But that's a different thing. Upgrading your WordPress. WordPress, like everything else, like Microsoft Office, upgrades every 6 months to every 6 days sometimes if they find something. You should like everything else, you should always upgrade. Backing up is a good idea. If you're on .com, I'll show it in momentarily, but you go to export. You go to settings, and then to reading, and then to export, and there you could save your file, because you would export it to your hard drive. Hope that's not too technical. If you're on WordPress.com. WordPress.com as a group saves your stuff, so if things just go nuts, go to help on the top right corner and radio them. Now, whether they back it up every day or not, backups are always good. You might want to do this backup I just described every month or every 6 months. My sites I do every year, but I live dangerously. But also most of my files I write out first in Word, and so I keep everything and I can just reload it. Keep my fingers crossed.
Isn't it stored in the cloud?
Yes. Yes, WordPress.com, it's stored in the cloud. To be doubly safe, and she's talking about not themes, but when there's an entire upgrade and when it says to back it up, I haven't seen it fail, but it can. And of course, there's always that Peter principle. On you, the day before you have something big coming up. I don't need to hold the microphone because nobody can hear me with it. The microphone is working only for the video. So I have to talk loud. If you can't hear me, if I'm talking over here and you're lost, shout at me.